Speaking for interesting developments, you guys know I'm a sucker for the UFO stories. Everyone's like, why don't you cover UFOs more? It's like, well, we follow the news. And when the news arrives, and we will explain it to you. I do have to say, I'm a bit disconcerted that this is coming from the top spy chief herself. Let's put this up there on the screen. So, Avril Haines, who is the director of national intelligence, she oversees all of the 16 U.S. spy agencies, including the FBI and the CIA, was speaking at an event here in D.C. called Our Future in Space. Now, during that, and actually this just shows you how far we've come, she was actually asked about UFOs, something that you would never have seen the DNA asked in the past. And what was really stunning is that she at least opened the door, saying that it was possible, and again, possible, that the strange encounters the intelligence community simply does not understand could be extraterrestrial life. She even hesitated to use the word extraterrestrially, but I can't even believe that this is coming out of the mouth of the top intelligence official in DC. That being said, what is a very common theme here on our show? Do not trust a word these people say. So for me, I'm very conflicted. I do not believe. I'm deeply skeptical of the deep state. What lesson did we learn? Over the last 5 or 6 years. There are two ways of looking at it. I've spoken with people in the UFO community. Number one is she was dragged here kicking and screaming, the intelligence community, because of efforts from within Congress or from within Pentagon in order to, release the videos and put some of the information out there in the public. The public is demanding so much answers. It forced the intel community to put out that report. You guys remember that report? They talk about having several instances unexplained by anything that we know in terms of technology that we have, that other nations have, and specifically actually ruled out the conventional, weather balloon explanation, saying this is a totally unexplained aerial phenomena and encounter that happened on our satellites. The other one is that this is a total psyop. I mean, listen, I just don't think that they're competent enough in order to pull that off. I don't think it's the 1960s anymore.
And the idea of the psyop is basically like to get themselves more funding.
Right, and I talked about this. If you understand the funding mechanisms, they have the highest military budget of all time right now. The Congress is about to pass it in the next couple of months in the NDAA. I mean, Biden—
all they have to do is say like Iran or China, and they get billions more dollars.
Exactly.
So
I pointed this out.
Elaborate for that.
The time for a psyop was 2013 during sequestration, when the military budget was cut by like 10% or something like that. That was the time to start conjuring up
Maybe
some
that's
psyops.
When they started conjuring it up, and it's now just come to fruition now,
okay.
Saagar.
All right, see, I don't have my head deep enough into the space. I tend to fall amongst the first category of what I said. I think that the intel community was dragged here kicking and screaming. They never want to talk about this, but because of the disclosures of the people inside the military who are pushing out these videos to journalists like Jeremy Corbell and others, they are made it so that the intel community chief herself has to acknowledge the possibility of extraterrestrial life. We have the full video of what exactly she said, so you guys can take a listen for yourselves.
And the main issues that Congress and others have been concerned about are basically safety of flight concerns and counterintelligence issues. But of course, there's always the question of, is there something else that we simply do not understand that might come extraterrestrially?
Yeah, you can see that little bit of a hesitation.
Kind of stumbles there, too.
Yeah, like I said, look, I mean, we have gone through many of the quote-unquote conventional explanations. The military themselves says that's not true. Now, should you trust the military? No. But they also said it's not a top-secret government program. It's like, well, if it was a top-secret government program, then they would have said so. I can tell you from speaking with people who are close to the intel and close to some of the stuff that's going out there, even the people who are the senators and them who are charged here do not have any indication that this is some sort of secret program. They are generally mystified. The people who are the Pentagon are actually loath to admit that they have no idea what the hell is going on with these encounters. There are a number of videos that are inside the Pentagon, inside the intelligence community, photos and others that have just simply not come out because people are afraid of, if you leak it, that's, violating the law and they can go after you and a lot of this stuff. It's not as tightly held as it was held before, kind of within the intranet of the CIA and the DIA and many of these other organizations, but there's still a trackability there, which would make it so that you're going to federal prison if you were to leak that to a journalist. And you put that together, the information that we do have and more indicates that there is more inside the community, inside the intelligence community. We saw John Brennan former CIA director, get pressed on this by Tyler Cowen, and he also had to admit about some of the intelligence, saying, look, we simply don't have no idea what it is. And I still think that that very short document that they put out there was an extraordinary document in which they had to admit that by their own analysis that the conventional earthly explanations made absolutely no sense in order to explain some of the flight that was observed by some of our airships, or some of our airplanes, all usually out in the middle of nowhere, seeing things move at a high rate of speed, which is just not known in human technology.
Another point that argues against the idea that this is a psyop is that that report was spun to the media as proof that it wasn't extraterrestrial.
That's right.
When there was actually no, it just was like, well, we can't explain it. We didn't prove that it is extraterrestrial. We just can't explain it.
It was like, finds no proof that it is extraterrestrial. It's like, okay, but it didn't find any proof that it wasn't.
Also, but that way that it was spun to the media, I think would also indicate that it's not ultimately a psyop, but who the hell knows? Our friend Jeff Bezos was at this same forum.
Yes.
He made some interesting comments as well that I picked up on. So he says he does not see us lasting much longer on Earth. He claimed that Earth might one day become a vacation destination that you would visit just like our national parks. That all manufacturing would be in outer space with workers permitted occasional visits back to the surface of the Earth. Very generous of him. He dreams of floating space cities that contain rivers, forests, and wildlife. No word on how his ego is faring since, they Congress didn't give him all the billions that he wanted for his project.
This has always been a problem with Bezos. I would love that if that were to be true. I would love it if that were his actual aim. He also, as I covered in our last show, is the guy who held up the moon landing for over a year because his company did not win a contract.
Yeah, dude, you're setting us back. If that's your goal, you're actually standing in the way.
Yeah, you literally dealt the biggest blow to the American space program in years by suing and holding up SpaceX from being able to begin work on the lunar lander. I didn't know this, but apparently Musk had even chided him at the time, being like he likes lawsuits more than he likes going to space, which I think is true. He wants to go to space and have all of this technology as long as he is the platform through which all of this would happen.
Yeah.
That is why, I mean, think about it. He built Amazon, which is the platform for most of online retail. And if you think the next most lucrative opportunity in the world is building the rockets that are going to take you back and forth from future space colonies to Earth and more, and, bring back minerals or whatever, the mining on asteroids and all of that, then logically you would want to own that platform too. So this vision of Bezos, something I fully want and buy into, is not one I want Bezos to be in charge of.
I don't want any. I like this planet.
Yeah.
I'm kind of attached to it.
I'm out. Put me on the next ship.
I enjoy this one. I enjoy being here and not just visiting it occasionally. From some Amazon-owned city in the sky. So I would personally like to try to save the one that we're on first before we have to resort to whatever sort of hellscape Jeff Bezos has planned for us.
You know what's cooler than hiking Yellowstone? Hiking Mars. So that's something that I would get into.
Prove it, Saagar. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.